High in the clouds sits a city that should have fallen apart 100 times, yet it keeps breathing through storms and quakes as if the mountain itself is keeping score. In 2025, scientists finally looked beneath the postcard and found the rulebook the Incas were following all along. They didn't fight the ridge. They partnered with it. Ready to hear how a lost city used cracks, water, and gravity like hidden code, and why everything you thought you knew about Machu Picchu is about to tilt? The century that got it backwards. When Hiram Bingham hacked through cloud forest in 1911 and stepped onto a ridge where terraces hover above a river shaped like a dark serpent, the headlines wrote themselves and the labels arrived fast. Royal estate sounded glamorous. Fortress sounded bold. Sanctuary sounded reverent. None of those outfits answered the stubborn questions that stick to stone once the cameras leave. Where were the huge markets a permanent city needs? Why do the elegant gardens feel sized for ceremonies and seasons rather than year-round provisioning? Why do the bones lean toward workers and attendants instead of family lines that whisper of generations on the same slope? The ridge is a razor. Rain beats the site for months. Trails climb like tests. If the Inca were the logistics masters who stitched half a continent with roads and depots, why crown a place that punishes mistakes? Scholars mapped every sun line and measured joints so tight a blade cannot slip, and the puzzle only sharpened. Precision lives everywhere, yet permanence is selective, as if the city was tuned to occasions, councils, and sky clocks rather than daily bustle. The terraces look like steps to the heavens, but they also read like carefully placed anchors. The temples drink light with a timing that feels intentional rather than decorative. The pathways narrow in ways that slow crowds and focus attention. Nothing about this plan says accident. It says design with a purpose. We kept misreading because we wanted a palace in the clouds when the mountain was offering something stranger and smarter. Maybe the story we kept repeating was the pretty one that photographs well while the real logic hid in the ground. What if the answer was never on the surface at all? What if the mountain itself was the missing voice we forgot to ask, and what would it say if we finally listened? The place that should not exist. From a respectful distance, Machu Picchu looks inevitable, the way a skyline looks inevitable after 1,000 postcards, but a practical mind hears a different rhythm. The ridge is narrow and windy. The drops on all sides are not metaphors. The Urubamba waits below like a black comma at the end of every careless step. Moving food, tools, and stone to that elevation without wheels or draft animals sounds like a sentence no planner would write on purpose. Add the twitch of Andean tremors and the hammer of seasonal rain and you have a list of reasons to build anywhere else. Yet the Inca did not choose easy ground. They chose precise ground. That implies trade-offs. It hints at a gain hiding inside the very hazards we keep listing. The gardens are elegant because the city was never meant to be a belly. The paths are steep because the place was never meant to be busy. The layout reads like a stage designed for rare alignments, for councils that needed privacy from the valleys, for rites that braid sky, water, and stone into a memory the empire could return to when it needed to think clearly. The ridge is not a mistake. It is a filter. Only people and moments with a reason to climb arrive. Look closely and you see a choreography that privileges meaning over crowding. Vantage points that prioritize horizons over storefronts. Storage that looks strategic rather than domestic. A city that glows most brightly at certain hours of light and certain seasons of the calendar. What looks reckless through a market lens reads as intelligent through a ritual lens. So if the choice still feels reckless to us, perhaps we are grading the wrong assignment. What could a knife edge offer that a comfortable valley never can, and why does that offer make sense only if you listen to what the mountain is already doing? The 2025 breakthrough beneath the stones. The plot turned when geologists joined the archaeologists and asked the question that should have been first. What is happening inside the mountain? Instead of staring at walls, they looked through them. Satellites traced hairline fractures like threads on a hidden compass. Ground-based resistivity watched current slip along cracks. Muon tomography, a cosmic X-ray that reads density, painted the bedrock like a living bone. Different tools, same map. Machu Picchu sits where major fault systems cross in a giant natural X. Modern builders see faults and think hazard tape. Inca engineers saw features. Cracks guide water. Cracks free stone. Cracks spread earthquake energy so shaking softens instead of snapping brittle pride. Cracks even sketch alignments you can build a temple around without inventing the compass twice. The mountain was pre-scored with instructions. The builders learned the script and wrote a city across it. Once you accept that the ground is not a blank page but a document already filled with lines and veins, the choice of site stops looking like a dare and starts reading like a perfect answer to a question the ridge asked. The ridge did not say fight me. It said follow me. It offered veins that could drink storms and pathways that could carry weight. It offered a quarry that renewed itself with every stress cycle. It offered a grid that matched the sky. If fractures can be veins, quarries, shock absorbers, and sightlines at the same time, what does a ridge city become when you treat those lines as code to follow rather than danger to flee?